Hey everyone, it's Eric Huey, host of the Gen Y Leaders podcast, where we prepare millennials to be leaders of the future. Now, if you're familiar with the podcast, you know that it's usually interview-based, and we tell the success stories of high-performing millennials. Each time, I tend to ask a couple of the same questions. Not all the same questions, because that would be a boring podcast, but there are a key 1 to 2 questions that I ask every guest on the show. And one of those is, what books or resources have made a positive impact in your life or in your business? Books are such incredible resources because they take years upon years of people's successes and failures and condense them into a few hours of reading. The mission of the book breakdown is to take those few hours of reading and then further condense them into 15 minutes or less of listening. This is the Gen Y Leader Podcast, Book Breakdown.
Hello, Gen Y Leaders. My name is Matt Honeycutt, and I am the Director of Graduate Business Admission in the Helzberg School of Management at Rockhurst University. I was on the Gen Y Leaders podcast with host Eric Huey several months back, talking about kind of my role in higher education and also how I balance that with my wife and a family and plenty of other things like I'm sure you listeners do. So I'm here to kind of do a book breakdown, a really good book I read. First read it about a year ago. It is called Digital Minimalism, Choosing a Focused Life in a Noisy World. It is by Newport. Cal is a computer scientist professor at Georgetown University. Book was published, I believe, in early 2019 or late 2018. Cal has published several books, with a few of his best-selling ones called Deep Work and So Good They Can't Ignore You. So he's quite known for books on really getting the most and work out of yourself and focus and efficiency. He really good books on that he's kind of done. But this one takes a little bit of a turn in just how kind of digital and social media can play a role in our lives and how we need to kind of own that and have a discipline for it. So if you're listening to this podcast and are considering to do a quick social media search for Cal Newport, probably won't find him. I don't think he's ever had a Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram account. But you can check him out at calnewport.com. So he has a blog there and other different resources and outlets, but he's never been a believer, which is kind of, some people say, oh, a computer scientist who does so much with technology has nothing to do with social media. But when you get to read the book and get into it, it kind of makes sense for who he is and what they're doing. He defines digital minimalism as a philosophy of technology use in which you focus your online time on a small number of carefully selected and optimized activities that strongly support things you value, and then happily miss out on everything else. I think my favorite part of his quoted definition is that you happily miss out on everything else, which is kind of the harder part of understanding digital minimalism in the world we live in and kind of how we interact and behave with technology. I really found it as digital minimalism being this evaluation and strategy of how to reduce the constant noise of technology, especially social media. When I read this book, right about a year ago, I found myself coming back to it a year later. Sometimes you obviously, as you all know, when you exercise or have other good habits that you build, sometimes you fall out of them. Life gets busy and whatnot. So I knew this book would be something I pick up multiple times, probably throughout my life. So I decided to grab it and look at it again. But when I first read it, I started to find myself after kind of a long day of work and putting the kids to bed with my wife, just, wanting to veg out, which there's nothing wrong with vegging out, but I kind of knew, okay, I'm going to put the kids down, sit down, watch TV, or just look at my phone, maybe look at social media some for an hour or two before going to bed, look at sports, catch up on things that are really not important, but, it's just mindless, I'm going to do it. And at that time, I really only have like a social media account. I think I might still have my Facebook account open because I've tried to use it for Facebook ads or something for work, but really all I had at that time was Twitter, and I check it for news, and I didn't really follow that much. But I just realized I was becoming very lazy and apathetic in how I use my leisure time. So it was like I would, go to work, have a busy day, get home, eat dinner with the kids, bathe them, we'd put them to bed, and then it was just like, oh, what am I going to do before I fall asleep type of thing. And after doing that for probably several weeks or maybe even months, it was just like, gosh, like, what is the point of this? And almost like made me feel empty. I would not say I went into like a deep state of depression, even though it can cause that for people. It was just a real hard look at like, what, I'm not getting any value. And it's not that I need to have some type of outcome with what I do each night, but why don't I enrich myself with something else? Read a book, or build a other type of skill, or look at something else, or just sit in quiet. Sometimes we don't do that enough. But so I realized, gosh, there's got to be something out there. And I was reading some other books, not really related to Cal Newport's book, but then I stumbled upon his, it's probably Amazon, and how they can track patterns, and like, oh, if you like this book, then you'll like this book. So I saw that, did a little bit of a review on it, and said, yep, I definitely need to get this. Told my wife about it. She was like, that's super awesome. Definitely let me know what you find out when you read it, or maybe I'll read it. And some of the big points from this book, some of the key things that I really found with it were that the biggest thing Cal Newport does at the beginning is kind of opens your eyes to becoming aware of what it's turning into. And it's like he describes people's obsession with digital and social media and technology as this, it's the new, and you all have probably heard this, but it's the newest, biggest addiction. It's like smoking practically, it's checking your phone for notifications, always grabbing it, wondering when someone's going to text you, or checking on that, I posted on social media, did anyone like that? So that's a big thing he talks about, is don't like anything yourself, and don't, kind of get away from the whole like or favoriting things. So that was a big thing. He just kind of talks, he also has a really good point, I believe he brings up in the book, about how big social media tech executives, some of these tech executives and people that have been in design and in production of these applications in social media platforms, they won't let their kids use it. So they designed it for people to use, to make money, obviously to make revenue, to have a business, to grab people's attention, but they know the harms it has. And some of them have, obviously anonymously, but told Cal Newport, I would never let my kids touch these, which is really crazy to me. I think it's awful ethics, but just also, gosh, the power of it, but you'll, make money on doing it. So that's just kind of not a good thing to find out, but interesting to see. Another thing that Cal talks about is called Solitude Deprivation. And this is where you spend zero time with your own thoughts. Now that doesn't mean just sit and stare at a blank wall and don't think at all. That's practically impossible for anyone. But really, it's maybe going on a walk, maybe doing that while you go on a light jog or exercise, writing letters. You could look at it as meditation. Some people do yoga and find that way. Other people, it's maybe just spending time with God, or whatever the religion is. So kind of just letting yourself disconnect from everything and really start to evaluate your thoughts and spend time in it. We almost have, I know I still have it sometimes, is that anxiety. It's like, what do I do with this quietness? I got to grab this. I got to think about this. I got to go be efficient and do this. And sometimes that solitude is needed, just to kind of have a deeper thought of what's going on and what you're trying to sort out. So he has a process too, bringing digital declutter into your life. So one big thing is, he says, before you do this 30-day digital break, so you take out any things that are not necessary. So obviously like work email and certain maybe personal email times, you need that type of stuff. But pulling away from social media and maybe texting a lot and things like that, you kind of make some rules and guidelines for using social media and technology that you think would be good. And then for 30 days, you totally do a declutter and pull back from it. So you really kind of try and cold turkey it and say, okay, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to use this here. I'm not going to do that. And even if you start to build in some simple guidelines and rules, like I'm not going to use my phone at night before I go to bed, or for the last 2 hours, or I'm not going to wake up and look at it until I'm at work, or something like that. You'll find, when I did that myself, it was very eye-opening. One, you just realize how much you reach for your phone out of pure habit and pure anxiety or whatever it may be. It was just like, I put my phone at work literally in my backpack or in my work bag, and the amount of times I reached over on my desk or reached toward where I usually have my phone, I feel like in an hour it was like 5 times at least, which is not good. So if anything, it just, in those first few days or first week, you just become so aware of how much you are dependent on it. Sometimes people say, I don't think I use it that much, or I'm pretty good with it at this time and this day, but you'd be surprised still how much you are checking it and doing. And again, there is work things that you're doing or professional things you're doing on your phone that are not bad, but it's just trying to get away from more of the attention grabbing of things that isn't keeping you focused and isn't giving real value to your life. So you do that 30-day kind of declutter. But the goal with that is to start plugging in meaningful high-level activities in place of the passive technology. So maybe it's exercising, maybe it's reading a book. It's kind of having a list of those things that know, okay, if I'm not going to lose my phone at night, what am I doing? Because just like any building new habits and trying to get rid of bad ones, just the removal of one, you're just going to think about it if you're not doing something. If you're not kind of filling it with something more meaningful, then you're just going to think about it and want to grab your phone or whatever the kind of habit is or addiction. So it does a great job of, kind of explaining how you can find things of value and how you might want to seek out the things you want to do. So he said, join, maybe it's more the social interaction, maybe have conversations with your family or you're in a community or group, or maybe you do woodworking, maybe you're looking to exercise, maybe you're looking to build some other type of skill. And I think so many times we get obsessed as millennials and driven with our profession that we sometimes think we need to fill those times with ways to make us better at our job or move up in our job or be a better leader, which these are all great things. And these all are things that I think deserve time and have high value. But sometimes it's doing something for the sake of just developing a skill because you would like to have that skill or you would find it meaningful. Some people say like a woodworking one is, well, it's cool because then I could build my child a toy chest for Christmas or something. Or maybe someone else, it's painting, or another person really enjoys a certain sport that they haven't got back into. Like I used to play tennis a lot. Why don't I, if it's nice enough, why don't I just go play tennis with someone? Give some social interaction, but also it's just healthy and kind of a feel-good thing to do. So that was really the key points in it, and it kind of goes on to talk about inputting more conversations and real-world interactions and how that you need to be very intentional with that process and what you do. Now, some of the kind of, I'd say, aha moments of reading this book, and some things just opened my eyes. I've mentioned some of them a little bit, but one of them was social media and what I call the comparison game. So you're always comparing your life to others in unrealistic pictures. So you're seeing someone, and Cal brings this up in the book, you're seeing someone who is on a trip, and it's this great selfie, them and their family, they all look super happy, the kids are happy, mom's happy, dad, in-laws, whatever it is. You're like, wow, that must have been a great trip. Everything must have went 100% perfect. Everyone was, the kids were great, the family got along, everyone was happy. Gosh, I bet they love that. But in reality, I'm sure what happened 30 seconds before that picture or a minute after that picture probably wasn't as good as the picture looked. So sometimes I think we use that comparison game and think, gosh, in that one quick picture selfie moment, you are trying to capture that the whole experience they had was just way better than anything you've ever had, and you want that now. So that comparison game can really give us a distorted view on life and happiness. That was a huge thing I saw. Again, I kind of gotten away from Facebook over the last 3 or 4 years, but still, it's like you'll see something on Twitter or something else, and it's like, gosh, or even if you like something too, it's like you can, it's nice to show appreciation for what you see and liking something, but it's that game, and then also the game of you post something and then you're really curious about how many likes you get. Almost like a popularity game of, I posted this great picture of a sunset, which is awesome and has its value, but did you really like the picture, or are you just more like, gosh, how many people are really going to like this? So-and-so liked it. That's great. So you kind of have to catch yourself in that game, and that was a real eye-opener. Another big thing was just, as I mentioned a little bit ago, doing things for the sake of enjoyment and skill building. It doesn't have to be purely out of making you the most efficient person or a really good leader or pushing you in your career, like developing some skill that, maybe this will make me more money, or this will make me better in my job. Those are all good things, and there's the time for that, but there's also the time for purely doing something to kind of strengthen and open your mind of just intrinsic value to you as well. And then that was a big eye-opener again, that it's like, okay, I know I can do this. There's things I like. You make excuses. Oh, I need to go do this, or oh, I need to do that, or oh, I need to work on, my resume or whatever it may be. But there's a lot of things that's like, gosh, maybe I just do something because I want to do it, and it doesn't have to be that I'm the best at it even, or it's just more of the process. As a lot of people you understand, it's more of a journey, and the process of what you're doing is what you should be focused on. Another aha moment was just it was just really, again, I was more on the front end of the book, and a lot of that kind of is an eye-opener and kind of gets a little negative, but just how much we use social media and how much this quote-unquote phone addiction and how much anxiety it brings in our lives. If you told everyone in a waiting room, that's where I see it especially. You walk into a waiting room, everyone's faces in their phone. If you told everyone for 10 minutes to set down their phones and talk to everyone, the anxiety would be through the roof in that room. And I understand some people's personalities are not built to just talk with strangers, but even the people I think that are extroverted might not really feel like that's something they'd want to do or build energy around or do. So the human interaction, that was key. Just having conversations. Obviously there's certain times when you're tired and worn out and you just want to kind of give yourself some time, but maybe that's a good time to just open up a journal or get a piece of paper and write down, gosh, this is what was good today, this is what was bad today, this is what's on my mind. And at least you have it written down and can start to think about it. So those are some really key things I'm kind of in that process that I saw. One key action item that I can really drive home that I think is something you can take with you and hopefully use today or tomorrow or consider using soon is if you're not interested in reading the book, which I felt like it was a pretty easy read. I don't know how many pages it was, but it wasn't hard to read, and it definitely kept my attention. What you can do is try the 30-day digital declutter or even a 5-day one. I mean, look at it as, okay, for this next week, starting on Monday, I am going to obviously use the technology I need, but in the morning and at night, I'm putting away my phone. I'm putting it down. I'm, not responding to anyone, or I have put up an automatic message that says, I'm not responding right now or anything like that, or post that on your social media, taking a break for a week, trying to kind of better analyze how to use social media. Obviously that might raise questions from people, but doing that even in a 5-day time frame is going to just open your eyes to how you're just gonna be so aware of how much you use it. And not that the goal is to make you feel like an awful person by any means, but I think it can be good to open your eyes into your faults and where we all sometimes fall short, or where we're not really just being the best version of ourselves. So that's something I could really give. Another thing too is maybe set a rule or guideline with that technology. So as I've said, no phone or social media after 8 p.m. or maybe deactivate social media accounts for a period of time. Another big one that Cal Newport continues to talk through is no likes. He thinks in any situation moving forward, no likes. If you really find meaning in something someone posted, maybe it's an email or a text, as old-fashioned, as crazy as this sounds, maybe a letter, maybe a phone call that just says, hey, you posted those pictures about that trip, or you shared this quote or this story. That's really great. Thanks. That just really inspired me. That was really good. Obviously, they might think something of it that you liked it, but to really provide meaning in it, not just to passively say, oh yeah, they posted that article, that was cool, and you might not even have read it. I've definitely been caught in that on LinkedIn or something. So sometimes it's really be intentional with telling people what you find good about them or something that they posted. Maybe not just liking a bunch of stuff is a really key option. So those are just some key takeaways I think that can really help. But I hope this brief book breakdown gave you some insight into digital minimalism. For those of you, I don't know how many listeners we have. I'm Catholic, but it's the Lent season for the next 40 days or so. So maybe it's something you want to pick up and kind of absorb there, but you obviously don't have to be Catholic in any way to do this. This is just maybe picking a time or a period or a week and say, okay, I'm going to really focus in on this and make myself aware of using technology and social media. So if you have any questions about this book, you can always reach out to me. My personal email is Honeycutt, HoneyCutt, and then the letter M for Matt, 89@yahoo.com. So if you have any questions, or heck, if you want to borrow the book, you don't want to buy it, I understand that. I'm happy to send it to you. Or if you just want more insights on kind of how I've taken the book and applied it to my life, happy to share that. So thanks again for listening, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the book breakdown series. It's been a good one, and I've enjoyed working with Eric Huey and the Gen Y Leaders podcast. Thank you.